Hi there, I'm the Criticat, and in this video we apply Blake Snyder's beat sheet from Save the Cat to the beautiful 1999 movie classic American Beauty, written by Alan Ball and directed by Sam Mendes. As Blake Snyder would say, let's beat it out. The film starts with moody teenager Jane whining about her failure of a father, Lester, played by Kevin Spacey. She even likes the idea of getting rid of him, like you would a sick animal.
Want me to kill him for you?
Yeah. Would you?
After that little teaser, we're introduced to the story's setting and our narrator.
My name is Lester Burnham. In less than a year, I'll be dead.
The tone of voice and film score contrast a lot with the rather depressing message. That's the sign of a black comedy. The voiceover that runs on for the next 3 to 4 minutes is perhaps one of the wittiest in recent cinema history. Unlike so many voiceovers that merely tell us what we're already watching, Lester's VO gives us attitude and heart, irony and pathos. We can hear how tired he is of his dull suburban existence.
Look at me, jerking off in the shower. This will be the high point of my day. It's all downhill from here.
The setup lasts for 14.5 minutes and introduces us to the Burnham family as well as the neighbours. The main guy, Lester, faces 4 big problems that need fixing. Problem number 1. His marriage to his control freak of a wife, Carolyn, has lost its spark.
Man, I get exhausted just watching her. She wasn't always like this.
Problem number 2. His relationship with his daughter Jane is a bit dysfunctional.
Jenny, what happened? We used to be pals.
Problem number 3. His career. It's dull and the boss is treating him like shit. Problem number 4. Even he admits he's become a loser. He's numb and is in danger of becoming totally irrelevant to everyone. Even his wife and daughter see him as a nuisance.
Nice going, Dad.
Carolyn is working hard to look successful and perfect, but feels unappreciated by her family and clients.
Mom, do we always have to listen to this elevator music?
No, we don't. And as soon as you've prepared a nutritious yet savory meal that I'm about to eat, you can listen to whatever you like.
She hasn't yet realised that she's way too absorbed by surface and appearance. She seems to believe this is all that matters. Jane is doing her best to be authentic, but is quickly becoming stony and cynical.
Jane, honey, are you trying to look unattractive?
Yes.
Congratulations, you've succeeded admirably.
The Burnhams' new neighbour, Colonel Fitz, is a typical army grunt with homophobic tendencies.
How come these faggots always have to rub it in your face?
He sees his son Ricky as a rebel, a young man who has to be barked at and given orders if he's not to become a disgrace to the family.
Fight back, you little pussy!
Barbara, the Colonel's wife, is the sad result of living under the Colonel's authority, and her head is already way up into the clouds thanks to prescription medicine.
I'm sorry, what? Mom, nobody said anything. Oh. I'm sorry.
Unlike his dad, Ricky is quietly and resolutely independent. A poet and a natural businessman who is quietly saving up the money he makes from selling pot in order to run away. Jane's only friend, Angela, is the kind of girl Lester probably dreamed of as a teenager. To his amazement, she seems a little bit interested in him. Outwardly a show-off, Angela's insecure and lonely. Deep down, she worries that her good looks are all that she's got to offer the world, so she makes up stories, always seeking a sort of celebrity status, even if it makes her infamous.
Because there's nothing worse in life than being ordinary.
The main story, or A story, is about Lester. The B story is Jane and Ricky's relationship, the C story stands for Carolyn, and the D story stands for daddy issues between Ricky and his dad. In Save the Cat, Blake writes, somewhere in the first 5 minutes, someone, usually not the main character, will pose a question or make a statement, usually to the main character. That is the theme of the movie. American Beauty is one of the few movies I know of that doesn't follow this rule. No one gives a hint to Lester about the theme in the setup. In fact, it's Lester who tells the audience what the theme is in his voiceover, when he meets and instantly falls for Angela in the 15th minute.
I feel like I've been in a coma for about 20 years, and I'm just now waking up.
Much later in the film, Ricky gives us the rest of the theme by talking to Jane about finding beauty in simple things, when he shows her his video of the floating carrier bag.
Sometimes there's so much beauty in the world.
And in the end, the ghost of Lester copies Ricky's words to wrap up the entire film.
But it's hard to stay mad when there's so much beauty in the world.
The theme, as stated in the setup, is waking up to the beauty of the world. The rose, the dubbed American beauty, symbolizes two kinds of life: the boring suburban life and the life you can enjoy once you've woken up from that bubble existence. At the start, we see Carolyn cutting roses in her garden, which she'll bring indoors to create an effect of domestic harmony. Then in Lester's fantasies, we see scattered rose petals covering Angela's modesty. Now, what does that mean? Well, the rose on its own represents life and the way it's been handled. In Carolyn's hands, the rose represents everything that is boring and tame in Lester's life. It represents the material world without desire and humour. The rose petals in Lester's fantasies, on the other hand, represent a return to longing and poetry. A world full of a more vibrant desire. They would seem to promise a life no longer bottled up by all the boring trappings of his 9-to-5 existence. 15 minutes in, Lester meets Angela and instantly falls for her. He is reawakened. The B story also gets his own catalyst. Jane sees Ricky and for the first time in ages feels a strong physical and intellectual connection. 22 minutes into the film, we get the debate. Lester really wants to talk to Angela, but he's afraid of embarrassing them both. Though his heart has been opened again, he knows he is a married, middle-aged man and is afraid of being judged a sleazebag. Meanwhile, Jane is really interested in her new stalker, but Angela tells her stories about Ricky being a patient recently let out of a psychiatric hospital. But after Ricky speaks confidently and sanely to her for the first time, Jane gets turned on. Slowly, Angela's getting sidelined. Act 1 breaks into Act 2 around 32 minutes into the film. Lester meets Ricky for the first time and makes a decision to live the way he likes it.
I think you just became my personal hero.
Angela starts to flirt with Lester, and his desire grows larger. He hears her say,
If he just worked out a little, he'd be hot.
Fueled by Angela's curiosity in him and Ricky's weed, he feels inspired to explore further this new Lester he's playing with.
That's disgusting.
In the C story, Carolyn chats with her real estate rival buddy King Kane, hoping to learn from him. She totally worships him. This is a guy who really knows how to be successful and wears it in style. Lester generally behaves like a younger and single man. He works those muscles and smokes that weed. He becomes confident, relaxed and optimistic.
I rule.
And resumes his role as man of the house.
You two do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, and I don't complain. Now, all I want is
you
the
don't
same...
complain? Oh, please, excuse me. I must be psychotic then. If you don't complain, what is this? Yeah, let's bring in the laugh meter and see how loud it gets on that one. You don't complain.
Don't interrupt me, honey.
Carolyn also has a moment of reawakening, even if it's different to Lester's. Her fling with the King Kane washes the stress away. She learns to fire a gun, giving vent to her neurotic tendencies. She too starts to feel young again.
Have you done something different? You look great.
Lester and Carolyn start to see each other in a new light. Lester even makes a misjudged pass at her.
Lester, you're gonna spill beer on the couch.
Though it failed. In the love story, Ricky and Jane hook up. Ricky states the poetic theme of beauty, and Jane begins to appreciate herself for who she is, escaping from under Angela's shadow. Snyder describes the midpoint as a false victory or false defeat. It has to be the opposite of the all is lost moment later on. American Beauty has a false victory. This is the scene when Lester gives his boss the finger and blackmails him enough money so he can not only give up his boring job, but also enjoy semi-retirement for a while. He quickly gets busy again when he takes the burger counter job that he had back when he was a teenager. It may not be the answer to all his problems, but it certainly lets in a giant draft of fresh air and hope. But of course, it's not to be a lasting victory. The problem with Lester's false victory is that it attracts the wrong sort of attention from the bad guy, Colonel Fitz. Fitz starts to see Lester as the kind of guy he wishes he had become. And although he's been trained by the army to declare his loathing of homosexuals at every given opportunity, he ironically happens to be one. So he can't even express his interest in Lester until it's already festered and turned to acid. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Seeing his son engage in an authentic way with Lester, the Colonel becomes jealous of his son's budding friendship with this newly awakened neighbour. He tries to shut Ricky down with his usual rant about discipline and structure, but Ricky is not going to listen to that. American Beauty is, in my opinion, a perfect film, yet towards the final act it's not so easy to beat it out, according to Snyder's beat sheet. All is Lost is supposed to be the moment in the story when the hero runs out of options and appears to be defeated. Blake Snyder has a little secret for creating a good All is Lost moment. He says it's best given what he calls
the whiff of death.
Basically, someone close to the hero dies. But in American Beauty, this death would seem to be figurative. It seems to be the moment when Lester's dream of seducing Angela falters and dies, killed by her revelation.
This is my first time.
This moment of defeat intersects with Carolyn getting dumped by Buddy. It would seem their new, more playful lives have come to a close. The dark night of the soul follows quickly after All is Lost, and in this movie, it's the moment when Lester reflects on what he's just heard in Angela's confession. In the screenplay, Alan Ball writes, Lester looks down at her, his grin fading. Angela lies beneath us, embarrassed and vulnerable. This is not the mythically carnal creature of Lester's fantasies. This is a nervous child. Lester's face falls. There's no way he's going to go through with this now. Angela's confession, her surrender to him, wakens him to the realization that he doesn't want to take advantage of her. A hasty and probably clumsy sexy time would only ruin the beauty he has found. Perhaps in the same moment he realizes that he's been so immersed in pleasing himself, he has neglected to see the people he cares about through their eyes. His reawakening is finally complete. And instead of taking Angela's clothes off, he asks how Jane is doing. Angela sees he's not merely being polite, he certainly wants to find a fresh connection with his daughter. Being more open now, he's moved by Angela's simple question, inquiring after him.
How are you?
It seems a long time since anyone thought to ask. Later, Lester gazes at a family photo, contemplating the past and the present. Ricky's obsession with beauty in the Bee story enhances Lester's moment of acceptance. Without ever hearing Ricky's words, he realizes that even before his reawakening, his life was beautiful. Lester crosses to the kitchen table, where he sits and studies the photo. He suddenly seems older, more mature, and then he smiles, the deep, satisfied smile of a man who just now understands the punchline of a joke he heard long ago.
Man, oh man.
It's a Zen moment when Lester finds a profound acceptance of everything that has happened in his life. Whatever happens after this moment, he'll accept it with open arms. Even a bullet to the brain. The resolution is bittersweet. As Lester's ghost talks about his fondest memories, we see the perspectives of the main characters as they hear the gunshot. The videotape we saw at the opening turns out to be a red herring. Jane is devastated to discover her father's been murdered, while Ricky is in awe of Lester's smiling face. Carolyn's gun is also a red herring. For a moment we think she's the killer, but she too is devastated to find Lester dead. It would seem she was returning home with the gun as a confidence booster, not a weapon with which to kill her husband. In contrast to the bloody spectacle and horrified reaction of the other characters, Lester says in his sweet, ironic fashion,
I can't feel anything but gratitude for every single moment of my stupid little life.
The final opening is of the neighborhood, but instead of drawing closer to it, like in the opening, we are drifting away from it, as if soaring up to the heavens.